Coming at you a little bit later today, we got extended geomagnetic storm conditions. Looking at the sun here and 3 different wavelengths of ionized iron. And welcome to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, where we bring facts. We refuse to bring propaganda. And we don't talk any nonsense, but we extended period here of geomagnetic storm conditions. Lots of imagery of aurora on our Twitter feed, so follow us over there. Some activity out of this sunspot down here. It's magnetically complex. Likely activity to follow in the coming day or two out of this sunspot down here. It's huge and magnetically complex. Let's take a look at the SDO colorized magnetogram. We have multiple named sunspot groups here. We'll look into those close up a little later in the video. Here's the intensity gram. They've been mostly stable here over the past 24 hours. This imagery is of yesterday plus today, so September 3rd and 4th, and starting out September the right way with geomagnetic storm conditions. It's the most geomagnetically active month of the year. Brief look at volcanoes here includes a volcano rundown, Shiveluch. Volcanic ash not identifiable in satellite imagery. Let's assume it is erupting. Abiko, flight level 120, it's a 12,000-foot volcanic ash plume. Volcanic ash plume not known from Suwanosejima. Likely erupting there as it has exploded also. Mount Ibu, volcanic ash reported to 7,000 feet of altitude, flight level 070. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, flight level 220 over Colombia. Flight level 200 over Ecuador from Sangay as it explodes. Revenador also exploding. 14,000-foot ash plume over Ecuador, flight level 140 from Revenador. Sabancaya also exploding, flight level 230, as explosive activity continues from the Peruvian volcano Sabancaya. Don't pull Volta Caldera. We had one major earthquake here that just came in a couple of hours ago. It was a 6.9 magnitude. That's a 90-day bar graph, by the way. 6.9 magnitude quake happened here in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Check it out. There you go. No UNESCO alerts from that one for some reason, but that's the location of that one, right between Africa and South America there. No tsunami warning, advisory, watch, or threat at the moment. I believe it was downgraded to a 6.8. Let's move on to check the rest of the list here. As it's been quite seismically calm here over the past 24 hours, except for that 6.9, just small magnitude quakes and not very many quakes. That one on the plate boundary there that separates the Atlantic into the eastern and western Atlantic. Right there on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Came in at 9:42 Universal Time this morning at an estimated depth of, it says 10 kilometers. I also saw 6 kilometers. Anyway, the point is it's pretty close to the surface. And here's the last 24 in ionized helium. Back to the closest star, space, a frontier. These are the voyages of geomagnetic storm conditions, and let's take a look at a bunch more data. How about the Earth geospace first? The 10.7 centimeter radial flux. So the radial flux now at 123 solar flux units. 123 is the 10.7 centimeter radial flux. There is the 1-year graph from Solon.info. It's the black line there. The red line below it is the sunspot number. And here's a space weather enthusiast dashboard forecasting continued periods of geomagnetic storm all through tomorrow, Monday, September 5th. It's Labor Day, and we hope you're enjoying your delightful Labor Day weekend. Geomagnetic unrest expected to continue into Tuesday, September 6th. So, ongoing coronal hole high-speed stream conditions, highly elevated solar wind speed. Here's the earthly geospace for the last 4 hours as modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. It's a high-pressure environment around the planet. We've got some pretty optimal conditions here. We've got a negative BZ factor. We'll tell you about it in a moment. Again, that's the last 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure. It's our geospace magnetosphere movie. Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. This will show you the most likely places to see aurorae. Geospace delta B refers to changes to Earth's B field. Check it out, some magnetic pulses coming out of the northern Indian Ocean there, right at India. The southern tip of India seeing some magnetic pulses. Some equatorial magnetic pulses here as we see a KP6 geomagnetic storm at the moment. Next, showing the auroral 30-minute forecast. And there are tons of images of aurorae. Some great ones. The best ones that we shared on Twitter so far are from Greenland, so check us out over there. We won't show them on the video to encourage you to follow us on Twitter. Always some fascinating conversations going on over there and some interesting people to interact with. So there you go. Intensification just restarted there of the aurorae before it calmed back down. And let's take a look at the KP index, the planetary K index at 6. So there's a geomagnetic storm for you going on for the last at least 9 hours. And taking a look at the geoelectric field here. This is one of the features of geomagnetic storm conditions, folks, is that we get induction into power lines. So, and one of the typical spots that we see lots of induction into power lines there is in northeastern Minnesota. You can see there approaching, that's 1,000 millivolts, 1,000 millivolts per kilometer there. Right up here around Lake Superior. So we may see some grid issues happening here. And also some possible grid issues there around the East Coast and so on. That's our empirical data there of the geoelectric field. That's induction because of incoming plasma from space. And next, let's take a look at the real-time solar wind here. And as we forecasted, it got well over 600 kilometers per second. Yesterday, the forecast was that would be over 600 kilometers a second. We even got over 650 kilometers per second, making it up to about nearly 680 there. 676 is the highest reading I see. Current conditions are 656 kilometers per second there, the highest solar wind speed we've reported in quite a long time. Again, starting out September the right way here. Solar wind density, 10.87 protons per cubic centimeter. And we've actually just seen the BZ go back into positive territory here. So geomagnetic storm conditions may subside. We may go back into just geomagnetic unrest, perhaps. So the BT is 7 nanotesla, and the BZ is positive 5 now. So we may see geomagnetic storm conditions subside. I would expect that if that does not go back into the negative. You can see this strong negative signal here going on for extended periods of time. In the top pane there, that negative BZ, that is the kind of signal there that creates a lot of current, a lot of induced current in the earthly geospace. GOES magnetometer looking spiky here as high-speed plasma shows up. The solar plasma has its own magnetic field, and here's some imagery of that. So the solar plasma here, it's polarized, and that coronal hole high-speed stream is North Pole oriented. Heliospheric current sheet plasma, you can see that shown there in green. Exciting stuff going on. Next, our line of sight field plot. It shows you the solar B field in blue, solar polar fields in red and green. And that high-speed wind is from this coronal hole system right here. Those coronal holes not even known about since the 1970s. It wasn't until the 1970s that we realized coronal holes were responsible for these high-speed solar winds. It was just a mystery until we had spacecraft looking at the UV spectra to see those coronal holes. Spacecraft like the SDO. And there's some of the best imagery you'll see of those coronal hole systems. I would also note that the North Pole coronal hole is still kind of fixated at the North Pole. One of the many indications, as well as high latitude sunspots, that we've got a long way to go through solar cycle 25. I guess some people are still claiming that it's a grand solar minimum and that the solar cycle is already at maximum, and they're praying for zero sunspots, which they're not going to get because they would prefer to be right, and they're not right. So let's move to sunspots here. And we've got multiple named groups here. 3087 has already set, and I think 3090 and 3091 have either set or evaporated, but 3089 is the group to watch. So don't be surprised to see some M or even X-class flares coming out of that as it approaches the limb. The other exciting sunspot group is this one here, 3093. It might look small and unimpressive, but it's quite magnetically complex, which is the main feature associated with solar flaring. And before we get into some more imagery, let's pause for station identification. Thanks for leaving a comment. Smash Staff and One Audio. Welcome to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. So here's our SDO continuum imagery, and let's zoom in, as that is not enough detail for our channel. That's a little bit better. And so one of the features that we're talking about that it's clearly nowhere near solar maximum is that you see this sunspot here, it's at sort of a middle latitude. This one down here is at a quite high latitude. That is an indication that we've got a long way to go through solar cycle 25. Let's take a look at the northeastern limb first, as that sunspot up there has gained a little bit of complexity. You see some umbrae growing behind it there. It's now certainly beta gamma class. And also a new sunspot forming ahead of it. So right here by my pointer, you'll see right at the end of that, that is the past 24 hours, right around here. There's a new sunspot just formed. Here's the southeastern limb. This sunspot here has been growing a little bit. This one here, beta gamma class. So we've got multiple beta gamma class sunspot groups. Certainly the most interesting one is this one. It is certainly the most likely to produce major flares. Leave us a comment if you think solar flares are anisotropic, meaning their intensity depends on your viewing angle. We're fairly sure of this, as it's much more likely to produce a major solar flare at the edge of the solar disk than in the middle of the solar disk. That's been mostly stable here over the past 24 hours. Likelihood of major flares going way up here with the growth of sunspots, and you can see that reflected in the X-ray profile. That's the last 3 days of the X-ray flux as measured by the GOES 16 and GOES 17s. Next, some imagery in 94 angstroms. That's the last 24 hours, and you can see some flaring happening there from both of those highly complex sunspot groups in the southern hemisphere. Southern heliosphere, I guess. And here's 131 angstroms. It also takes 10 images per minute. So if you want to make your own videos of solar flares, 94 and 131 angstroms are specifically for solar flare observation. And I think we got some close-ups of this. Sunspots like to go out with a bang because of the likely anisotropic nature of solar flares, giving us insight into the physics of, indeed, what stars are likely made of. That's composite, by the way. That's 94 plus 131 angstroms. And we've also put up 171 plus 304 angstroms. That's ionized helium and ionized iron. The 304 angstroms, that's the ionized helium. The 171 angstroms, that's the ionized iron. 171 is gold. 304 is red. No spikes in the proton flux here. If we see a major flare, we may see a spike in the proton flux. That would be interesting. At the moment, proton flux flatlined. And here's a star chart for all of you stargazers. Thanks for stargazing with us. It's always interesting to look at the closest star as we stare at the sun on the channel on the regs for the last well over 5 years now. That's what's going on overhead at Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Check it out. Deneb is just about to set as it swipes down across the horizon. That's the brightest intrinsic object visible from our solar system. The tail of the swan, Deneb. Did you know Göbekli Tepe is oriented at it? Did you know that it's the celestial pole star at the other end of Earth's precessional cycle? Here's a solar system forecast. Let's go ahead 1 week. We've just moved into a gibbous waxing moon. As we approach a full moon, is where things will be in a week. We will have a gibbous waning moon on the 11th of September. Here's some coronagraph imagery. It's been pretty calm. Only some minor CMEs over the past day. That's yesterday's imagery. And here's today's imagery so far. That's only 13 frames, so let's take a look at some more from Stereo A and from the SOHO LASCO C3. Stereo A here, located at Lagrange 5, puts Earth off to your right from Stereo A's perspective. Somewhere down that line, Earth behind you from the SOHO LASCO C3's perspective. It's located at Lagrange point 1, about 1 million miles toward the Sun. Next time it's noontime, know that the SOHO LASCO C3 is up there orbiting Lagrangian point 1, about 1 million miles away. It's like 4 lunar distances approximately. And again, things quite calm here over the past 24. No coronal mass ejections to really talk about. We also made a 24-hour HelioViewer movie here. For some reason, the SOHO LASCO C2 didn't come through, but we've got the C3 there. Again, that's the last 24 hours, along with 304 angstroms. No new CMEs headed in Earth's direction. Next, looking at filaments via the Lermonth, Australia ground-based solar observatory. And there is a huge series of filaments over here around these sunspots in the southeast. So that's interesting. That could produce some major coronal mass ejections. And that's something to keep an eye on. One of the great ways to do that is through the GOES 16 SUVI. We may have to stream that later, and here's the imagery from that. That's to last about 2.5 hours. You can see that huge filament here suspended in between some sunspots. And before we get to bonus features, here's the last 24 hours and 171 angstroms, the house favorite wavelength. Good stuff. Now we're going to move to bonus features. I believe we have some satellite charging hazards. And we have some evidence of that in the meteorology segment. We'll get to that momentarily. So satellite charging hazards, here we have some significant ones on the surfaces of satellites. Moving into the Central Pacific there. Western Mexico, some significant charging hazards there. North of the equator, surface charging there caused by low energy electrons on the surface of satellites. Here's the GOES electron flux over the past 3 days. And seeing a little increase here in the electron flux, despite that high-speed coronal hole wind stream. So there you go. NOAA and I were forecasting and expecting a little lower electron flux levels than we see here. Instead, we see a little increase in the relativistic electrons. And there's the 1-year chart to put that in context from Solon.info. Next, we'll look at the ionosphere, the F-layer. It's located at 300 kilometers of altitude. Feel free to pause the video on this frame. If you're not familiar with things like the penetration of electromagnetic radiation, the Earth's atmospheric layers, chemical concentrations in the thermosphere, and temperatures versus solar minimum and solar maximum. So here is the F-layer of the ionosphere in vibrational frequency. And nothing looking really out of the ordinary here. And let's take a brief look at the anomalygram as well. Here's the anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. And I would remind our viewers that September is the most geomagnetically active month of the year. Lots of high-frequency anomalies actually happening here. Mostly around the equatorial regions and southern hemisphere. There's the latest image. That's 11:45 Universal Time ionogram. There's 11:45 Universal Time anomalygram. And we'll also show the total electron content forecast. And this is fairly normal here. Nothing anomalous happening there. That's fairly well organized. No significant GPS errors. No significantly out-of-place GPS errors. Most of those occur around the equator at noon, as is evident in the animation. And of course, your GPS satellite is located at quite a high geosynchronous altitude, about 12,500 miles, on the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt. Free electrons cause a signal refraction. And that's why those GPS errors occur. So here's the latest intensitygram. We'll refresh that. Here's the latest colorized magnetogram. Let's take a look at this sunspot before it sets. Yowzers, that thing is very magnetically complex. It's very huge also. The next most interesting sunspot group is this one down here. It's been producing some significant flares as well, despite its small size. Its magnetic complexity is what really matters. And there's the full disk rock back. Again, a new group has just formed right here. And it looks like it's evaporated again already. And we'll bring up one more series of images here. This great composite 304, 211, and 171 angstroms from SDO is the imagery from yesterday plus today. So let's zoom in a little bit before we close out our space weather section of the video and move into the realm of meteorology, as we've got a hurricane in the North Atlantic. So hey everybody, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists despite pathetic big tech censorship and despite so much nonsense being covered on things like space weather. I know it's a disaster. It's a disaster because there are a lot of people claiming there are going to be disasters when there is no evidence to suggest that they're correct. So, one way to undisasterize yourself is to become a member of SureMed. I'm a member of SureMed, and it's pretty hard to get me to use the doctor, and I've actually used the teledoc service 3 times in the past couple of months. I generally have to be bleeding out to seek medical attention, but I had some issues, one of which was COVID in July. And I took some steroids to help me recover from that. I used Doctors by Phone, the teledoc service. And it was super fantastic because I didn't have to go anywhere physical. Talked to board-certified physicians over the phone. Had my prescriptions called in. Never had to go to a physical doctor. That's worth it by itself. You can also get discounts on durable medical equipment, diabetic supplies, labs, vitamins. The Health Advocate Solutions to help you find providers and negotiate lower prices on your medical bills, retail and mail-order pharmacy, vision discounts, dental discounts, even virtual veterinarians. Similar to the Doctors by Phone, you can reach a virtual veterinarian as a free included service of your membership to SureMed, a membership in the American Better Health Organization. So check it out, links below the video as well as on the homepage at smashomash.com. And did you know that we send out email alerts to the Smash team? Yeah, we send out email alerts like we did last night in the middle of the night about the KP6 geomagnetic storm situation at smashomash.com/Smash team. Thanks to our gold level Smash team members. Thanks to our silver level Smash team members. Thanks even to our bronze level, which is actually of no cost to you. And you'll receive email alerts for most serious things, like if there's a tsunami warning or something like that. We typically send out email alerts associated with those kinds of things. We wanted to let everybody know that there may be aurora visible, especially if you're in the northern portion of the U.S. or places like Greenland, Northern Europe, etc. So let us know if you've seen any aurora. Hit us up on Twitter especially. And if you want to support the channel via subscription services, become a member of the Smash team at the gold or silver level. There's also a gold annual paid-up subscription level, which is the best value. It includes complimentary merch. Yes, thanks to our new followers on Twitch. Twitch.tv/SmashoMash is where we regularly stream live because it's just such a good platform. If it's good enough for gamers, it's probably good enough for you, and it's certainly good enough for these videos. Twitch.tv/SmashoMash is where we regularly stream live. In fact, we're doing it now. Also on Twitter, twitter.com/SmashoMash. Hit us up over there. If you don't have a Twitter account, create a Twitter account. I don't care who's been banned. I don't care how pathetic the censorship is on big tech platforms. Do it anyway. And by the way, I'm calling out big tech. I do it regularly, and I've been doing it for about 6 years because they're contributing to the pathetic banana republic situation we've got going on in the U.S. right now. And check it out. Check out their stock charts. Well, there's Meta. Oh, they're doing a fine job. There's the one-year chart of Meta. Here's the one-year chart of Twitter. Oh, that looks wonderful, doesn't it? Here's the one-year chart of Google, otherwise known as Alphabet. And here's the one-year chart of Apple. Yes, the 4 big tech companies responsible for most of the pathetic censorship, not doing too good. Markets don't lie, but people certainly do. Twitter.com/SmashoMash. If you're picking up merch, don't forget to enter the promo code NOTJUST to save 20% on everything store-wide. Here's our storefront. Our products are listed in order of best selling and may or may not reflect the apolitical views of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. I'm completely apolitical because there's no way I'm going to be associated with a political party, as I see nothing but hacks. I'm a pragmatist, and my views are way too nuanced on any of this stuff to be associated with Democrats, Republicans, or libertarians, as most libertarians I see online have been a libertarian for approximately 14 seconds and don't seem to know or understand the precepts of their own party platform. Libertarians, all you had to do was get a libertarian candidate, not Gary Johnson, and you may have received some votes. Again, listed in order of best selling. Don't forget to enter the promo code NOTJUST to save 20% store-wide. At the Redbubble Shop, today's featured product is the Galactic Federation Special Forces. So I would say to you, Universum Liberate, I'm wearing the shirt myself because I'm not just Smash-O-Mash, but I'm also a client. So Universum Liberate, if I could wave my magic wand, I'd set everybody free. You're free to pick up some merch. It's fantastic. The print quality is great. And thanks to that viewer that picked up the Universum Liberate t-shirt, I think in blue. They all come in a variety of colors. And we've got a variety of products. Everything from postcards to shower curtains to travel coffee mugs. It's the motto of the Galactic Federation Special Forces, Universum Liberate. The symbolism stands for the Milky Way galaxy. The key represents signal strength and integrity and security. The lightning bolt represents instantaneous galactic scale reach. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. Because here at the Smash News Network, we support freedom and liberty, and I say to you once again, Universum Liberate. Let's get to the meteorology segment, as we've got some interesting stuff going on in the North Atlantic. But before we do that, don't forget to press like and subscribe. Thanks to our new subscribers on YouTube. Thanks for putting up with the pathetic censorship on the platform. Don't forget to check our playlists for videos that aren't about space weather and meteorology. You can find Terms Defined, the Diamond Anvil Too Hard to Smash, music videos, even some product reviews, some ownage food. There are even some recipes on the channel. So click playlists and find those once you're done viewing this video. And welcome to the Neo Renaissance. You can find our links all over the homepage at smashomash.com. We are still also on Patreon. We're on Locals. We're on Facebook. Join us on a Discord chat. If you want to send an instant message, hit us up on Discord. I think I get instant messages if you need to send me a message for any reason. That's a permanent invite link to our Discord chat. welcome to the Neo Renaissance. And congratulations on realizing that the channel exists. I know there are a lot of fully mentally handicapped channels on YouTube, which make no sense and have tens and hundreds of thousands of subscribers, people believing nonsense, cultish crap all over the place. We just cite facts. Because I have these things called ethics. So here is the wind and sea surface temperature anomaly environment in the North Atlantic. And we're looking at that because we've got a hurricane. And it's actually expected to kind of go like this. So it's not going to affect the U.S. at all. And some very anomalously hot water up here. Check it out. That water is 11.6 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for this time of year. Some hot water there in the North Atlantic. We'll show you the storm track for that here in a moment based on the GFS forecast. And let's switch to our regularly scheduled surface wind maps of the eastern world. Another tropical typhoon there. And that's hurricane force there, showing 79 mile per hour winds in between Japan and Taiwan off the coast of China. The coast of China, okay? The China coast, the coast of China. That coast is made in China, okay? Fake Callaway golf clubs are being shipped out right now from China using stolen U.S. intellectual capital, okay? There are the jet streams of the eastern world. And here are the jet streams of the Americas. There are the Americas jet streams, the western world. Strong jet stream signal there in the U.S. now. Some cold air from Canada being blasted way down. All the way to Mexico. Here are the surface winds of this side of the planet. And here are the surface winds of the central world. Here are the jet streams of the central world. And let's move on to the weather.gov map. So some flooding here forecasted for a large portion of the eastern U.S. there. East of the Mississippi, you've got Ohio, West Virginia, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, and a bit of North Carolina there, all expecting some flooding, flood watches in those areas, and also some flash flood warnings. Those are those red areas. If your county's lit, head to weather.gov and click your county. We obviously can't look at all of those areas. We show a more zoomed out view. So here is your total accumulated precipitation based on the GFS forecast, and expecting some heavy rain here in the mid-Atlantic states and the southern New England portion of the country. 2 or 3 inches expected for places like Connecticut, northern New Jersey, the Philadelphia area. But flood watches forecasted for this area right here, as that's just what they needed, some more floods. That's a GFS 72-hour total accumulated precipitation forecast in inches. And here's the North Atlantic storm track. This is the pressure and precipitation forecast, also based on the GFS model for the next 72 hours. You can see the way that system is expected to make a little bit of a turn to the east there. It's going northeast at the moment. It's going to go more east. And that's not going to help really strengthen it very much because that water isn't particularly hot. If it kept going north, it could intensify a lot. But it's going to thankfully make a right turn. This system here is going due north, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. The pressure's not really all that high in that system. I mean, it's not all that low. It's only at 988 hectopascals at the moment. .987. So it is a legit hurricane. I mean, there's the wind environment. It's quite well defined here. I'll bring up the radar and satellite. How about the satellite imagery? There we go. Here's the last 2 hours of satellite imagery. Give you a great view of that. And give that a minute to load. It is quite high res. And you can see somewhat of an eye wall there. Not super well defined, but it will be hanging around for a while there. It's not really going to lose its intensity anytime soon. Continuing on to our lightning mapper. And oh my God, there's a directed energy weapon going on. Oh, dear God. Dear God! Look at this, folks. Oh, look at this. It's clearly a directed energy weapon. Look at that. Oh my God. It's Operation Bluebeam. Just kidding, folks. It's probably electrons on the satellite. And yeah, a great example there of anomalous data showing up. That's probably not lightning at all. That's probably on the aperture, caused by those surface charging hazards we mentioned earlier. Likely electrons showing up on the actual device, as it looks nothing like real lightning. And let's take a look at a real-time lightning map here. Here is lightningmaps.org. We definitely saw some active cells when we were looking earlier around Oklahoma City. Let's see what we've got at the moment. And here we are on lightningmaps.org, powered by blitzoltung.org, and we do have indeed some more thunder rolling in to Oklahoma City. Let's see where that cell has moved. It looks like it's moved to the southeast from where it was. It was north of the city. We've got some strikes happening right in the city there. Some center city lightning bolts happening. We've also got some active cells there around Florida and so on. If you hear thunder, check it out, lightningmaps.org. It's splentacular. Splentacular, I tell you. We've got 293 strikes per minute at the moment. Next, we're looking at the U.S. Doppler radar map. And there's the all 50 state view. Some moisture here moving into Pennsylvania. Going to have some heavy rains in the mid-Atlantic states and New England. We'll focus on the lower 48 here. Those heavy rains making it to the center of PA here, moving to the northeast. More like the east-northeast. And we've got some satellite imagery to show you as well, the 3.9 nanometer radiation map and the water vapor map. That should help to clarify things on your Labor Day holiday weekend. So here is the shortwave radiation. That's 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation showing clouds and fog. It's still dark over the western portion of the country, so we can't use the visible yet. And there's the water vapor map, a huge area of dry, massive air there, stretching all the way from central Canada all the way down to San Diego and beyond. Some huge pressure gradients happening here in Oklahoma as that dry, massive air. See, there's actually cold air being injected like this at the moment. And that's making for some huge pressure gradients there. That warm, moist air is unable to suspend that dry, massive air, and that causes rapid precipitation to happen. So that's what's going on. Here's your recap, the U.S. Doppler radar. Clouds and fog. And here's water vapor. And that's where we'll close things out. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network Least Busted Name in News. And may that solar wind be at your back.